Looking good, Italian Job.
Feeling good, Tommy boy. How are you, my friend?
It's been a week, my friend. But it's 2022. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, especially for who our guest is today. We'll get to that in a moment. But man, we lost a great one this week in Bob Saget. And maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but let's just get into the one up, one down. I grew up in the school of comedy. I'm named Tommy Boy because of my improv comedy background. That guy is just great, not only because he's incredibly funny in so many different venues and avenues, and we've heard it said, if you haven't watched anybody on social media lately, the guy was just kind. Yes. He made you feel like you were the starring role in his life. And what a great way to endeavor to live and to be a high impact dude than making somebody else feel incredibly special just because you got to cross paths with them. So that's my down. But at the same time, we've all been doing the one word study this week and sharing our words. My word is radish. I want to get back to the root of what's important. I want to be a radical. I want to tie back into where we all came from and why that matters. And so I take the bad thing. I take the good thing. There's a facts of life joke in there somewhere, but at the end of the day, my up is that I've got a really great bar to add to my metric. And that is to just be a damn kind person to everybody that I run into. So
solid.
That's a big hello, but I'm going to throw the ball back to you. I hope you're doing well. Tell me if you're not, and tell me your one up, one down.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to piggyback on that, the one down piece and end with one up. But the down piece, I grew up on TGIF. I grew up watching Full House, and my first crush was Stephanie, and on Full House, and I grew up watching that. And so to hear that a man at only 65 years old passes away, somebody that you almost lived in that household vicariously every Friday night. So yeah, it's tough to lose somebody like that, and especially when you hear around Hollywood circles. Because normally the things you hear is that guy's a jerk, or I didn't really enjoy meeting him in person, but everyone said he was just so kind. So yeah, a little bit of wind out of the sails, growing up in the 80s to hear something like that. But on a positive note, I had a realization yesterday morning standing in the COT. It's 27 degrees, a little bit chilly. We're all sweaty and we're all just cutting up. And I realized at that moment, man, how blessed are we to be able to stand around and act like children, to have adult recess every morning. And it makes you wonder, who else gets that opportunity? Who else has it that good? We basically, I've heard it referred to as, I get my free therapy session every morning, just being able to hang out with my buddies. And it made me wonder, how much better would the world be today if every person, not just every man, but every person just had the opportunity to act like a child, to have a good time, to have fun with their buddies before all the world's responsibilities start tugging at us, just to have that moment. And that right there is why I love the COT so much. You rag on each other, you give each other a hard time, but you also say, hey man, I love you. And I have that opportunity every morning, and every man across this nation has the opportunity if he takes it. So that's a one up, because I just had the realization after 9 years. I've had this realization before, but 9 years in F3, I look at it and I say, that right there is what makes us different from everybody else. So that's my one up.
Yeah, I think back to Grow Ruck 22. I think it was Hello Kitty that said, "How lucky are we?" And that sums it up perfectly. We have an opportunity where every day we can be childish. And then before we part ways, we can be childlike and just appreciate our friendships and our love for one another. So well done. For fear of being too cheesy, it sounds like we get to inject a little sunshine in everybody's life this week.
Hey-o.
So our guest this week is from the left coast, which I'm excited about. I grew up in the Fremont area, which is opposite of the Bay from San Francisco. Huge Oakland A's fan, huge San Fran Niners fan. And so when we got called out a little bit last week to see if we were paying attention, Hello Kitty said, what would be stuff we're trying is to get this hunk of a man on Stuff We're Trying podcast who's doing this great FNG challenge. So at the beginning of this year, Slaughter threw out the challenge to not be a mile wide, but also be a mile deep. And somebody took that to heart, came up with a great way to invigorate male community leadership across the F3 universe. And so our guest this week, without further ado, from the left coast is our own Sunshine. Sunshine, how you doing, man?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. Before we get too far down the path, I'd like to say I'm an Aunt Becky fan.
Yeah, who is
Hey, I said my first crush. I didn't say that Aunt Becky and DJ Tanner were not also in the mix, but my first crush was Stephanie Tanner.
Good.
But
well, you're in good company.
There we go.
Outstanding. Sunshine, I always like to borrow a cue from our own C-SPAN. Tell us how you got your name and tell us about your first experience with F3. How long have you been posting?
Sure. I moved to Raleigh from San Francisco in 2014. Was EH'd by a friend of a friend. He picked me up on a Saturday morning, took me to a 2-year convergence. I thought it was a running workout because we're both runners. And so I was ill prepared in many ways. I didn't have a black t-shirt. I don't have anything that's snug. It was very aggressive, very painful. And then as there were a lot of FNGs, I asked the person next to me, what does FNG stand for? And I guessed, and I guessed poorly, and you can guess how I guessed poorly. This is a family show. And I realized I may have already stepped in a big pile of it to start with when I was told it was friendly new guy and not what I thought it was. So it got to me, there's 10, 15 FNGs. They said, tell us about yourself. I said, well, I just moved here from California, and when there's you've been to a giant AO with 15, 16 guys, you've been to one that's huge with 100 guys, how much effort gets thrown into your nickname is kind of directly proportional to how many people are actually there. So inverse proportional. So
that's right.
They spent maybe 3 seconds. Sunshine, that's it. And I know enough about nicknames that you don't fight them. They only get worse.
Amen. Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, I very well could have been named Hollywood Ninja if I had rebuked why I was being called Tommy Boy. So I'm glad that somebody trained you up well before you stepped into the COT.
Yeah, the best ones when you have those convergences and you have that many FNGs. I've been to ones where Dredd just kind of points at a guy, you are Bucket, you're Baby Conan, and just no relevance whatsoever. The guy hasn't even breathed a syllable out yet. Bucket. And so that's how it works. So sometimes it's that low hanging fruit. So you just move, California, Sunshine State, Sunshine it is, moving on. So I get it, man. I get it.
Outstanding. How long have you been doing F3 then? So since 14, correct?
So 14 to 19. And then my family, we moved back to California in 2019. So it was 5 years continuous. And then a little bit of story. I launched in 2020 begrudgingly and solo. And then we had to shut it down to shelter in place here a few months after that. And then everyone who had been coming, they all moved away. And so then I wasn't going to relaunch. It was such a heavy lift to get it started in the first place. And I didn't want to do it in the first place anyway. And then I was camping with a friend of a friend, a friend of a fellow parent at school, and I told him about this thing, and he was like, "Let's do it." And I was like, "Oh gosh, I mean, you realize how hard it was to get like 5 guys to show up, and they all laughed like we're starting at 0." He's like, "We got 2," and I was like, "All right, this is the worst kind of friend, but yes." Okay, let's do it.
The worst kind of friends are often the best kind of friends.
He's wonderful, and we wouldn't be here without that guy just saying, "Hey, let's do it with the 2 of us," and it worked. It worked.
So Sunshine, a lot of times when we put these podcasts out there and we put the Stuff Worth Trying manual out there, we put it out there because there's a guy somewhere who says that's a good idea. I'd like to try it. So before we get into the challenge that you've rolled out for your region, give us an idea of why it was a challenge for San Francisco versus what you saw in Raleigh. What's the difference, and how did you get to the realization of this is going to be a lot harder than it was back in the Carolinas?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways to go with this, but I think one of the things is we're not really adjacent to another region so much. The peninsula is not far away. It's about 30 miles, but they've really not been to any of our AOs because they're only on weekdays. And that's a heavy lift to try and drive up 30 miles, do a workout, deal with traffic. That's just a hassle. And then coming from either parts of the Bay, East Bay or North Bay, that's a $7 to $8 bridge toll, and then get into the city. So there hasn't been as much synergy that way. And then I've been down to a couple of workouts, so some of the other guys, but we kind of know each other, and they supported us very well on the 9/11 stair climb. But so the local guys really haven't been exposed to a lot of F3 short of me. And then the downrange guys who will post here when they're here for work or a family vacation. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of like how the growth is very incremental. And then when we talk about, EHing or recruiting a man to come out, we talk consistently and beat the drum about plant, grow, serve, and the mission of F3. But it's if you think about, if you had to pick one of the 3 F's to talk to somebody about, whether it's your brother, your dad, a fellow parent, it's easy to talk about fitness. You can get it. Like I need to work out. I've really enjoyed this group. Can get kind of soft and mushy when we talk about fellowship, but people get the idea around it. The concept of faith can be very polarizing. And so I think a lot of people are a little reluctant to say, oh, I'm going to this thing and it stands for this. And ooh, that sounds like that's not my thing. But I think we've come around to how we kind of treat faith here. And I know that will be divergent from what you see probably elsewhere. So that's probably one of the things. I think more than anything, what makes growth hard here is recognizing, understanding, accepting that there's a need. And for guys that have come here, we have a guy who's posted downrange from North Georgia. And one of the conversations, and he's been a great sounding board for me, is just for him to understand, and he can see it, is that people here are very, very fit. I mean, people have a thing, whether it's they already run or they cycle or they climb or they surf or whatever, people are fit. You don't see a lot of smokers. You don't see a lot of people that are overweight. So if I'm going to have a conversation, the easiest conversation to have between you and me is to talk about fitness. Well, if people are already fit, that's like talking to somebody at the Olympic Training Center. Hey, I've got this great way for you to lose weight. Sorry, that's the wrong market. So it's harder to then skip past the fitness thing and then go on to the other thing. And these are different conversations to have. And so it's not as easy to kind of find the wedge and expand from there.
I think that's the beauty of a lot of it is, when you define when you give our definition of faith, which is simply, and yet also not simply, a belief in something bigger than yourself. It opens the book for a lot of possibilities for something in the heart of all men, all people that are seeking more, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, but they also want to serve that thing and invigorate that thing and share that thing. And so I love that quote from years ago when F3 was on the Today Show of it's simply a belief in something bigger than ourselves. When we start to compartmentalize that thing is when we could run up against deceleration. But when you open the door like that, it does nothing but accelerates men. I love it. So real quick, you moved left again in 19, you started in 20, because why not? Because you didn't have a crystal ball and then COVID hit and you had to go on shutdown. You restarted begrudgingly because somebody was smart enough to say, why not? Let's do it. How many guys, if you had to guess, and there's no points for a right or wrong answer, are on your roster right now, as far as guys that post at least once a week? If you had to guess, what would that number be?
11.
There's a reason I'm asking. 11?
11.
Okay, 11. I'm going to say that again. 11. Italian Job, say 11.
I heard 11.
Okay, 11. Here's why I'm drilling down on that number. through no encouragement other than your own heart, you started something really, really cool, which is why we're here today to talk about it. And that's the FNG challenge. So for anybody who hasn't heard of it yet, tell us about this FNG challenge. And first tell us where it came from, and then tell us about the challenge, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I knew that growth had to be part of our, I mean, any organization has to thrive. It's going to thrive through some element of growth, and it can be getting bigger projects, more glamorous projects. It doesn't matter what kind of project you're talking about, but people who are in those organizations, that they want that opportunity. And I knew that if we were going to reach the 500,000 men that live in this city, we need more than the 11 of us. And, you know, the city is only 7 by 7. That's less than 50 square miles. We are no more than 4.5 to 5 miles from 500,000 men. But if you've ever been to this place, we can reasonably expect somebody who's 1.5 miles to come to an AO. Anything further, it's way too difficult. This is not a part where people get in their car and they drive 10 minutes. It's cumbersome. You got to deal with parking. You got to deal with parking when you get back home because you don't have a garage. So all that, I knew that we needed to grow. I think people knew that we needed to grow. And how were we going to do that when I am the model for how we are trying to recruit men, and I am not great at it, but I will keep on keeping on. I mean, my batting average is woefully under Cooperstown material. But you got to keep kind of getting in the cage and keep swinging, and know that one conversation won't be enough. So I wanted that. I wanted the other people to kind of understand that. We had a separate idea that we were running, and that's another initiative that we'll try and kick off later in the year. But we're calling it the F3 Roadshow. But we're not here to talk about Roadshow. But I thought, how do we grow? Well, how do we do that? How do I challenge people rather than just kind of constantly telling them about it? And I thought, well, people like competition, and people respond to incentives. That's the fourth principle of economics. I learned that a long time ago. And so I thought, well, if I can make something enticing or terribly awful sounding, we can go two ways with that. We can have a competition around it. And so I decided I will challenge the group, the packs, the field, if they can recruit more people in the month of January than I recruit, then they will win a prize. If I'm able to EH more men than they do, then I win the prize. And so that's kind of where we came up with it. And I think everyone liked the idea of it. We kind of kicked around what it should look like. But yeah, that's it.
Good
Nice.
deal, man. So it sounds to me like you saw that there was a need, and then you stepped in and said, you know, I'm going to fill that need, and I've got an idea of how it's going to go, and something that is different, unique, something that we haven't done in the past. So tell us a little bit about this challenge. When you say the field versus you, how do guys in the nation participate? What does it look like? Is there a point system? Like, give us the nuts and bolts of the FNG January challenge out
Sure.
there in the city in San Fran.
Okay. It's very simple. They get points as a team, and then I get points, and I have my own team. And that's where the nation comes in. So the local packs, if any one of them is able to EH a man and he shows up to a workout, the field, they get 1 point. What is also exciting is if that new FNG can subsequently recruit somebody, EH somebody before the end of the month, there's a bonus for that. And we've actually already had that happen, and it's been very exciting. So
Nice.
We had a guy show up last week, Millie Vanilli. He EH'd a buddy who came this week. So they'll get 1.5 points for having the FNG show up in the same time. So that's how they get their points. And then how I get my points is the same thing. If I EH a man, he comes, I get 1 point. Where I have teammates is this F3 brotherhood that we have. If if you, Italian Job, or you, Tommy Boy, say, hey, you know what? I got this buddy. He lives there. He's been looking to do something. I'm gonna get on his case and get him to post, and I'm gonna do it remotely from 2,500 miles away. But I'm gonna try and get this guy out there. Then, and he comes. Then I get a quarter of a point. I don't get the same amount. I get some portion of that because there are thousands upon thousands of high impact men across the country. And I feel like that's a little bit of an unfair advantage if I get the same reward. So that's how it is. If it's a tie, then we'll figure something out. But I think we figured out how to navigate through the ties.
So you told us earlier. Oh, so good. Good, TV.
No, go for it. It's all you, brother.
I was just going to say, you told us earlier, there's an incentive. There's an incentive. If you win, what happens? If they win, what happens?
Yeah, that's right. People do respond to incentives. If the field wins, then I will have to cue the first 2 workouts in February wearing an invisible shirt. And then I have some swim jammers because I do go swimming in the bay. And they're like a cross between Andre Agassi tennis shorts from the late 80s. And then if you ever watch Stefan talking about the hottest nightclubs in New York City, kind of like a mashup of that. It's I've gotten a lot of comments. So I'll wear that to cue the 2 workouts. And the guys did point out, you would want to do that anyway. So that's not really a penalty. So I'll also bring coffee and donuts as a reward. So there's disincentive and incentive. If I and the nation surpass them, then they have to come to Aquatic Park where I do my swimming in the bay, and we're going to do a turf and surf workout. So we will run around a little bit. We'll do some stuff in the sand. We'll get in the water, we'll get out of the water, we'll do all sorts of fun stuff. The water is usually around 50 at that point.
That's what I was saying. That's a pretty big deterrent because that kept guys from Alcatraz from escaping. So you've got your work cut out for you. So
that's it.
That's awesome. I love it. The creativity is great. And again, the number 11, as far as packs, is what I admire so much because, again, it's not like anybody called you and said you have to grow and you have to do it a very certain way. Here's my instructions to you, Sunshine, make it happen. You saw a need and you're filling a need by creating demand, creating excitement, incentivizing those who participate. And, I think of regions like Omaha, wait time moved out to Omaha, could not live a life without F3. He talked to the right guys about giving meaning to lives of men in Omaha. It was as simple as that, and yet as complicated as that. But he had a vision. He made it happen on his own volition. And Omaha is leaps and bounds growing, which, I can't help but put all my money in your kitty as far as this is going to be a raging success for San Francisco. And there'll be a model to follow. And I applaud any man who can step up and say, this isn't about a directive. It's simply about something I love and I want to see it grow and I want to give it away to as many guys as possible. So I applaud you for that. And if you wouldn't mind, really quickly again, how do guys from across the nation, what's the best way for them to get involved to support your initiative? And then also, I know you have a pre-blast out there. So PAX who are listening, we'll share that link to the pre-blast so you can kind of see the blueprint that Sunshine created. But yeah, if you'll let us know again how the PAX can get involved to support this initiative on the left coast.
Well, thank you. I mean, before, and I should have said this at the beginning, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share what we're doing. And it's hard to kind of get the message out there sometimes. And I wonder if I'm doing it in all the right channels. And I know I'm not, but this has been a great opportunity to do it. I think probably the easiest way to do it is just if you're on Twitter, we're F3_the_city, or you can just send me a message, F3_sunshine. And then I will get the communication either through Twitter or through an email or text. That's probably the easiest. I'm reluctant to probably share my phone number on
Smart
podcasts
move.
like this. But that's probably the easiest way to do it. We are on the 2 AOs that we have that are on the that have flags that are on the F3 Nation website. And then the Peninsula website also has that information as well. We have the Blackout site, but that flag isn't posted yet. But certainly that's an easy way to share that information.
So what's in it for a guy in the Carolinas, in Florida, somewhere that's miles away? What's in it for him if he gets a whole bunch of guys to post in San Francisco? Is there some kind of an incentive structure for the F3 guy that doesn't live in San Francisco?
That's a great point. I failed to mention that, but yes, we want everyone to be involved just because they're high impact men and they love supporting F3 and they love helping it grow. It's harder to think, why would I want to do something from 2,500 miles away from an AO that I'll never see? Well, there is some motivation other than just helping this organization grow. If you are able, the first person who's able to get a remote EH and get an FNG to show up, I will send you a packet of sweet stickers to put on your skateboard from a local skate shop or bike shop. We've got a whole bunch already ready. Can put it in an envelope right now. I can send it there. That's to the first guy who gets someone to post. If you are able to get, and I think it was less than 5, but more than 1, I will package up some coffee beans from a real expensive roaster here that probably taste just as good as the beans that you have in your neighborhood, but we're going to tell you that they're not. I will mail those to you. And then if you're able to get more than 5, the guy who is able to get more than 5, I will send you the newly printed Peninsula mud gear t-shirt or mud gear shirt. I will provide that as a expression of gratitude to you. I might throw in some stickers too.
You know, I've done a whole lot more for less. I can tell you that much. That sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, I ran 200 miles to the Blue Ridge Parkway for nothing other than a bumper sticker. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
You got a bumper sticker? Man, I got a cup of water.
That was the best cup of water ever. Well, look, Sunshine, I see your bag of coffee beans, and Italian Job and I'll raise you a biscuit with sausage gravy on it just to compensate for the donuts. So that's, again, I love it when guys take it upon themselves to give this thing away. I mean, you said it yourself that it's not ours. We don't pay for it. Nobody in the nation pays for what they do every morning at 5:30, regardless of what time zone you're in, which means we don't own it, which means it's ours to give away. And so T-claps to you for finding a way to make this exciting, finding a way to make it compelling, and also giving a platform where guys can participate from no matter where they are on the planet.
Right.
And that's exciting too. The thing that makes us different than all these other gym, fitness, whatever organizations is that we go out of our way to celebrate what's happening anywhere, and not just by clicking a like button on a social media post, but getting involved, leading into it, traveling across the country just to post for 45 minutes. And that's pretty special when you realize you're a part of something bigger than yourself. Back to the faith component, a lot of great things can happen, and that's how we change the world, one hymn at a time. So thus far, after that grandiose little intro, how are things going so far? What have you seen that you like? What opportunities do you envision if you repeat this next year, or when you repeat this next year?
So far, it's, we had 11 consistent guys posting at the end of last year, 12 months in. So far, we've had 3 FNGs show up. I'm sure for many of your listeners, they probably have 3 FNGs show up on a random Tuesday. So that might not be a big deal. For when a base of 11, that's awesome. So it's been fantastic. It's been exciting. It's been fun to see new guys show up. Just like, yes, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard. It was, this was fun. Like, this guy came and he's having a great time and he's going to come back. So that's kind of the early insights. They're all kind of local guys that are EHing local guys, which is what I want. That's the win there. did I expect an inflow, a giant number of dudes that have been recruited or EH'd from, parts of the field? I didn't. We had one guy last year show up who was a son of a man posting, I think, in St. Louis. So it's not like we had a lot of, spillover from existing packs. So, the fact that the challenge hasn't taken off on that second part, that's okay. I didn't care about that. That's not success for me. Success is for the local guys to understand, like, hey, this is what it takes. But it's also cool to know that there's a bunch of people out there that actually care about us. One of our packs, when he went and visited his parents and came back and gave a report, like, here's what it was like posting in Cleveland, just to hear him explain that was really neat for him. It was really neat for us to hear, like, oh, this really is something way bigger than ourselves. And like, yeah, they do it very different than we do it on the COT, but 80% of it, 90% of it is virtually the same. They're a lot stronger than we are because they've got equipment and kettlebells and CMU blocks, and 80% of us ride a bike or walk to the AOs. So there's differences, but a lot of it's very, very, very much the same.
It's really hard to bench press an elephant seal. So I hear you. You got to work with what you got, and those are slippery sons of guns. So you're doing
how
the
we
right
think
thing.
About, like, in the future, how we do this is obviously we can't do it the same way in 12 months. We're not going to have 11 consistent people showing up 12 months from now. We're going to have more. So maybe we divide into teams, or maybe we find a new way to do this. But I think there's something here, and I think this is something that obviously can be replicated elsewhere. I think it's something that when you think about a Manhattan or a Brooklyn or a Chicago, or not Chicago, but a Boston, any dense urban that's going to be very different. I think this is something where you think, all right, we're going to make a concerted effort to plant, grow, and serve in Manhattan. How do we do that? Well, we all have a giant network of people that we've known over the years. Let's put our heads together and let's just populate a spreadsheet and then mass blast and see who's game for this. I don't know if that's the way to do it, but it certainly gives you at least a roster of people to start with.
And that's the beautiful thing, is that you don't have to know how to do it. You just try it. And if it works, great. And you celebrate that and you share it. If it doesn't, you find another way. And you just said it, which is a point I was hoping you would make, is that as we grow in the dense metro areas like a New York, or Central Park, or a Boston, or what have you, you're going to have guys down the road that are taking BART to their workout in the morning, right? So when you think of the L train in Chicago, or you think of the subway transit in New York, how did that work for F3? What did that look like? F3 is free, but that doesn't mean the ways that you have to get there, sometimes based on where you live, are free. So what does that look like? How do you make it work? And I think you're making it work. You've created something that guys are going to want. Once they get their first taste, you can't untaste it, and pretty soon, our hope is that guys are going to call you and say, hey, how did you get over the transit thing? Where do you park in order to get to such and such? How did you plant near a park or a city facility? What did that look like? And so that's what I love, that these 11 guys that are on your roster now, so to speak, are going to be invigorating the lives of countless other men down the road. And it all started with an idea. I don't mean to put this lightly, but a silly idea, right? Just to have some fun with it and to introduce it to new men. So T claps to you for even having the audacity to give away something that wasn't yours in the first place, and you just wanted to have some fun with. So this is usually the part in the show where we do a stuff worth trying. I almost feel like it's self-evident, but Italian John, did you want to jump on top of that and add anything?
Sure. Well, before I do that, Sunshine, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out, talking to us, talking to the nation, letting the guys know you had a great idea. And if it nets 3 guys or 300 guys, it's a victory. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And I can't wait to hear someone else take what you've started and take it to their home region. So thank you for that. Let's make it real simple here. Challenge worth trying. I've got 2 of them. 1, check your Rolodex, check your LinkedIn profile, check your Facebook, or whoever it is, wherever it is, look and see if you know anybody in San Francisco. just look, send them a message and say, hey, let me tell you how F3 has changed my life. I want to get you in contact with some guys who are in your neighborhood closer than I am, and send them towards sunshine, send them to the city. So that's your first challenge. The second one, maybe you don't know anybody in San Francisco. Do you know somebody in your local community that you can reach out to? Give that EH to the guy. Again, you guys have experienced this. You've experienced all 3 Fs. You've been there for a workout. You've been there maybe for coffee afterwards, and maybe you've been there for some faith element. But what you know is, how many guys say, I wish I would have had this sooner. I wish I would have known this when I was younger. This has changed my life. So don't hold on to that. Give it to somebody else. Give them that opportunity. Share it with them. Give them the EH, even if that means that you show up on their front porch or you pick them up on a Saturday morning and you say, hey, we start at 7 a.m. on Saturday. I'll be at your house at 6:45. Don't make me knock on the door. Don't make me ring the doorbell. Don't make me wake your wife up when I honk the horn. I'll see you in your driveway at 6:45. Whatever it takes, give that EH, reach out to that guy, bring him in. I'm just excited to see how things finish up in the city with this challenge. And this is a great start, and can't wait to see how it goes. Tommy boy, tossing it back to you, my friend. Again, Sunshine, thank you for the time, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I echo that. I'll say this, Pax, get after it, find a way to fill the need inside of another man's life, even if he's on the other side of the planet, even if he's on the other side of the country. My hope is that in the coming months that we will see plenty of cafeterias sponsored by Sunshine and his bags of beans that he's going to be shipping out across the F3 universe. Gentlemen, I love you both. If you haven't heard it already, you are loved. And gentlemen listening, dominate the day. We look forward to seeing you next week.